Curtains. I wonder, when you close the curtain at night or open it in the morning, what is your motivation? At night we draw them, don't we, to keep those dark nights out, to make us feel safe and snug. And then in the mornings as we open them, there's always that little bit of excitement. Is it going to be that sunshine-filled day? Oh no, some of the door will maybe. Curtains. We close them at night and we open them in the morning. And obviously that can resonate with us in different ways today. The obvious thing to start with is, I wonder, are there parts in our life where we are closing the curtains to God, where we are trying to keep him out of what's going on? Maybe today is the day to open them. But of course, when curtains open, they reveal something, don't they? It takes me back to the theatre when you're sitting there and that excitement as those curtains just start to open at the start of the play, and you get a little peek at that set and you start to see the creative genius that has gone on, ready for the journey that the actors are going to take you on for the next couple of hours. Curtains reveal something as well. And curtains are spoken about quite a bit in the Bible. In the Old Testament, curtain was used to separate the people from God's presence. God is so holy, so perfect, so transcendent, so beyond our understanding, that actually to step into God's presence unprepared meant that we would die, because we could not cope with being with such a presence as that. So in the Old Testament, there was a complicated system of sacrifices. There were strict rules on how close you could get to God's presence. And at the very end, there was a big black curtain. And the only way into God's presence was for a priest, a male priest, to undergo a series of complicated sacrifice for his sins, and then to go through that curtain once a year into God's presence. Then we go into the New Testament. And Mark tells us that when Jesus died on the cross, that curtain was torn in two, symbolic of the fact that we, through Jesus' life, death and resurrection, can now enter into God's presence, whoever we are, wherever we find ourselves. That God's presence literally left that sanctuary and spread out into the world. His Spirit filled the world for all of us to receive. God's presence revealed by the curtains splitting in two. So I wonder today, have we invited God's presence to inside of us? Should we say to God, send your Holy Spirit, fill me afresh with your presence? Are there parts of our life where we need Jesus' presence to come into, to release us from, to set us free? And just like I started with that image of a theatre, that as those curtains of the theatre gradually get wider and wider and wider, so the more we journey with God, the more we live with God, experience of God, learn about God, then that curtain of understanding gets wider and wider and wider. And what we see is a God who loves us more than we could ever express or imagine. A God whose forgiveness is as far as the east is from the west. And that curtain, God's generous, radical love, gets wider and wider and wider. So today, let's just reflect as we close and then open our curtains. Where do we need to open our curtains to God's love? Where do we need to invite God's Spirit to dwell within us? And where do we need to continue with our journey with God, so that as those curtains open, we can understand how great, how wide, how high the Father's love is for us?